Today is Monday, April the 27th, 2 o'clock p.m. This Committee of Finance, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. It's called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ruby,
Here.
Santana,
Present.
Bishop, Campbell, Harsh,
Here.
Casey,
Present.
Valencia, Sly, Scott. Karaoke.
Thank you. I always go with guests first. I'm going to bring the court controls if I could. And I believe that they have a guest. This is ordinance number 404-2026. By Councilmembers Davis, Light, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the director of court control to enter into a license agreement granting the North Coast Waterfront Development Corporation the right to use occupy city-owned property located on Dock 32 at East 101 Erie Ave, Riverside Avenue to continue operation of the North Coast Yard and providing an event program for the general public for a period of 1 year with 1 year option to be exercisable by the director.
Good afternoon. This item today will be presented by John, City Manager of Commercial Business. Mr. Cruz, thank you.
This legislation will authorize the North Coast Waterfront Development Corporation to have a license agreement to operate the North Coast Yard at Dock 42. Last year they operated from June to September. There were over 25,000 visitors, a very successful initiative. In terms of the agreement, are pretty straightforward. The corporation pays $1 a year and carries full responsibility for all operating costs, insurance, no financial burden to the state. The agreement ends for 1 year with a single renewal option for control discretion. Scott Stringer here to give you an overview of the ERAs, the program, and the data source for the
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Scott Skinner, Executive Director of the North Coast Development Corporation. I'm normally here talking to you all about development of PERC or the stadium site, but that's not all our organization does. Last year, we built a pop-up park that we called the North Coast Yard. The goal is to start to create a sense of place and activate the site north of Brown Stadium prior to any permanent development or construction. So this is a temporary facility that will be operational until we start the permanent construction of the site. I'm going to walk very briefly through mostly just images to sort of give you an idea of what we've done last year and what the plans are for this year. So this is the site itself. For those of you who don't know, it is north of Brown Stadium. It is directly adjacent to the steamship Mather. So it's about 1.2 acres, or for context, 90 of the 2,100 parking spaces that are on that site. It's made up of a couple areas. You see on the northern edge of the water's front, we have sort of furniture and couches to sit out over the water. There is one shipping container is a bar and offers food. We have food trucks there on a regular basis. You can see what we call community blacktops, which are used for basketball, roller skating, soccer, sort of kids' trikes and activities. And then it's sort of surrounded and anchored by both pergolas and shipping containers. The operations of this are entirely funded by the operating budget of my organization, so not asking the city for anything. Programmatic goals, really, we can go through all of these, but really what it is, again, creating a sense of place, starting to activate the space, and really trying out both uses and partners for the permanent development site that we want to see. So we're working right now with nonprofit organizations and small businesses that we can use this as an opportunity to bring them in and continue to work with them when we build that more permanent space. Just a couple images. We worked with CMSD students to create some sort of tent furniture out of wood pallets. Like I said, we have kids' games. This is a very family-friendly place. If you go there at 5:30 p.m. on a Friday, there's folks roller skating, kids on bikes and trikes, kids playing basketball, and their parents are super fun. Like John mentioned, last year we opened for 2.5 months and we had 25,000 unique visitors, which again I think proves the case that folks, if you give them an opportunity, do want to spend time and have fun on the lakefront, and you can create space to do that at relatively low cost. Just a fun fact, we hosted 20 birthday parties ranging from ages 6 to 65. We had a couple marquee events. So as part of NGK Day, it's called SLS League. It's a skateboarding competition took over. We hosted an air show watch party as well as a 4th of July watch party. This is something we are really proud of. We had partner organizations, so nonprofits and small businesses represented from 17 different neighborhoods in Cleveland, as well as 5 surrounding suburbs. We had over 70 nonprofit and small business partners as part of our programming last year, including Soul Republic, who staffs our bar and provides food truck services. They're the folks who run Angie Soul Food in Zanzibar. From a weekly programming perspective, this is what you'll see every day this week as well. So we are programming the site every single evening. Monday and Tuesday, we have sort of European-style futsal soccer league. So a group called Ohio City Soccer comes out, and it was, surprisingly successful. Last summer, they had a championship series on a Monday night that had 400 people on the site watching soccer. Wednesdays, P League is a basketball league on the east side that uses this for competitive tournaments throughout the summer. Thursdays, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame hosts live music events, and the bars open as well. Fridays, during the day, we have a youth skateboarding camp. Inside one of those shipping containers is ramps and rails and a bunch of skateboarding equipment that they use. And then in the evening, we work with an organization called Rollin' Buckeyes to do sort of pop-up roller skating events. So just as an example, Rollin' Buckeyes was there every Friday last year. We have a DJ meetings on Fridays. They had over 800 pairs of skates rented. We subsidize their organization from my operational budget, so they can offer these services for free to Cleveland residents. And I should add on, unless you're buying food or a drink, every single activity here is entirely free. Attendees were represented by every single ward in the city. So 17, because this was last summer when we were keeping track. And attendees came from 425 different zip codes across the country. I'll let you read through these on your own, but again, had just overwhelmingly positive reviews, especially from folks with young families looking for activities, looking for things to do on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday on the waterfront. And just an image here, you can sort of see what we mean by kids' games, and just giving folks an opportunity to have fun, to enjoy Cleveland's downtown skyline to the south and the lakefront to the north. So that's all that I have for you. Again, not asking for any financial resources from the city. It's just an assignment to allow us to continue programming for the summer.
Thank you. All right, this was reviewed by the Transportation Mobility Council.
Yes, and the department could explain more, but I understood there to be, since council's not meeting next week due to the primary election, I understood there to be a time crunch relative to this facility being up and running this year to coincide with events surrounding the dedication of the USS Cleveland, which was the purpose for me leading up transportation, but more control of that explain.
Chairman Councilman. Yeah, that's correct. Starting on May 1st, USS Cleveland utilizing the yard for the full commission. So it was
All right, we're going to questions and Councilman Valencia, Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the director, the folks that are here. On this site, we have a site plan again. Sure. How much are you occupying square footage?
Square footage at the top end, I don't know. It's a little over 1 acre of what is a 26-acre site. So again, for context, it's around 90 parking spaces of the 2,100 parking spaces around the site.
So that entire, Mr. Chairman, that entire parcel from the manor to the west, that's 26 acres?
To the councilman through the chair, the entire surface parking lot is a plus or minus 26 acres.
And is that owned all by the city of Cleveland and the director?
Chairman Councilman, it is something that's
Are we aware, because I heard some things over the weekend, are we aware of anything that would have taxes pertaining to the development for that 26 acres?
To the Councilman through the chair. We have engaged a master developer, a group called DiGeronimo. They're based here in Northeast Ohio. We are in the process of onboarding. There will be a number of other developers throughout the project here as well. We are in the process of onboarding a new site planner to put together a site plan for the site without a stadium. We expect to have something to share with council and the general public late summer of this year.
Was that an RFQ or RFP one for that?
Correct.
And they were chosen
They were chosen
by
correct.
who chosen?
Sure. To the council through the chair in partnership, my organization and the Cleveland City Planning Department work together, as well as representatives from my forum.
So that would be for board control?
My organization is an independent 501c3.
But how could you, without authorization from council, use it?
To the councilman through the chair, we are an independent 501c3. We engaged a development group and then a planner to do work on the site. If there were any work to actually be done, if there were to enter into lease agreements, development agreements, any sort of financing or community benefits ordinance, that would have to come through council. This is just doing the planning work to get there.
Okay. So you would expect, Mr. Chairman, sometime something would be coming back to us with that 26 acres to the director?
Through the chair, the council president, I guess if something did materialize from those efforts that are coming, then yes, it would be coming through around this body.
So, Mr. Chairman, the parking revenue, is there any revenue stream from parking down right now?
Chair and council, yes.
And what is it? You come in and pay what? I've been down there, so what is the charge for parking?
Currently, it's $7
A day? And what about on the weekend? That's
unless there's a special event, it is $7.
So there's somebody there taking $7, or how does it work? Let me know.
It's basically the iPhone operation.
Oh, it is. So if you don't have a smartphone, what do you do? So what about these folks that just have smart flip phones? And these old timers that don't have smartphones?
I would say just based on our records, it is a very little amount. I would say probably less than 1%.
To the councilman through the chair, the Great Lakes Science Center parking garage is also available, which you don't need a smartphone to get in. And I would add in the majority of the use of this parking lot is for Cleveland Browns games, in which there are folks who take tickets and package.
Okay, so for the Browns game, is it still $7?
No,
Okay, well, and what is it?
it's still $50.
$50.
Not
And those revenues go to port control?
those two are fund, yes.
What fund?
There's a special revenue fund separate from the rest of those funds. So,
Well, I'll ask you, the chair, then, somebody can show me where those funds are going. Special line item, port control?
Through the chair, we can get that
Yeah,
information.
thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Brian King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Director, I think I just heard this term just now, the harbor fund. Can you tell us what the harbor fund is?
Mr. Not right now.
so the harbor revenue fund is all the funds that are separate from the enterprise fund. The revenues generated from harbor's property, which include lease rents, repair, worth margin lot, and lots of this fund. These funds are being used to fund operated operations, which includes primarily the contract for non-funded lines.
Mr. Chairman, to the Director, downtown Cleveland Alliance is funded in the general fund?
Chair of the council, not for.
All right, Mr. Chairman, to Scott, first of all, for our conversation last week, thank you very much for your time.
To the council through the chair, absolutely, all for you.
Mr. Chairman, Scott, this is 90 spots of 120, I think you said?
2100.
Or 2,100 spots. Does this stay up all year?
To the councilman through the chair, yes, it does.
And then, how much money did the city generate in revenue from this being held last year?
To the councilman through the chair, I don't have that information. We can look at parking charges to get you an estimate. However, when we are working with small nonprofit organizations that are coming from poorer areas of the city, we actually don't charge parking those days on purpose. So it's difficult to get specific parking revenue information to you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, to the director or Scott, whoever, if you could get us what the city generated through this little initiative last year, all we care about is, we don't want to give away the lakefront, and not be able to generate dollars. If this is an example of what's going to be further down there, and we're not generating any dollars, or this isn't a profit to us, I think we should show that.
To the councilman through the chair, completely understand it. We can get you what we have. This is meant to be temporary. This is not a permanent structure. And when new developments come to the site, whether it be hospitality or multifamily or other uses, this will come down.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, to Scott, is this your events that you run?
To the councilman through the chair, they start directly after the USS Cleveland commissioning ceremony, so they start June 1, and they'll go through the end of September.
Yes. Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, I'm still a little baffled with this harbor revenue fund I've never heard of. I don't know if anybody else has, but maybe through transportation committee or something, we can do a little deeper dive into what this harbor revenue fund is and where the dollars for this initiative is going.
Through the chair of the council person, we certainly can gather information around that for educational purposes so that this body better understands that fund, what it serves, how the revenues are derived, and where those revenues are spent in terms of our operations that are responsible for.
And the one thing I'd really like to make clear, Mr. Chairman, is if this is, I want to make sure we're not breaking up our enterprise dollars, right? If this is owned by the port, port's an enterprise, I want to make sure we're doing everything that we can to maximize what it is we're doing, and we're doing everything above board and legal.
And to the councilman through the chair, I don't work with the Harbor Fund at all. Just you asked specifically about what's going to be used to fund this initiative. This is solely my organization's operating budget. There's no other funding source that goes towards this.
Right, and then Mr. Chairman, Scott, what is your funding source?
Sure. Funding source initially was $3 million in ARPA funds that were allocated 3 years ago now. There is a small amount of new community authority revenue that's generated through some of these city-owned parking lots. And then it is portions, very small portions of the housing settlement group fund.
Okay.
Excuse me, the housing sports group settlement.
All right, and then Mr. Chairman, Scott, just like we heard this morning, $3 million in ARPA for arts, maybe you can also update the council on where your $3 million is.
Sure.
How that was spent, or what you still have left.
To the council through the chair, more than happy to come back in a couple months with a full report out budget. I should add in council president is on our board as well.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and I believe finance has a clarification on our.
To the chair of the committee, it's a special revenue fund that was created years ago because the harbor area is not part of the enterprise. It's separate, so it should be accounted for separately. It encompasses the pier and a couple lots, so that money goes into the special revenue fund that went through council some years ago. Because they have to do like common area maintenance, fix up all your rock hauls, the pier, the mather, and all that area. So that's where they spend that money that they put in there for the area that's out of that special fund.
All right, and then Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gentile, does that even include parking during Browns games? So that the money that is generated from that lot for during Browns games does not come to the city of Cleveland, it comes to it goes to the harbor revenue fund?
It is part of the city of Cleveland. Yes, it goes to the harbor revenue fund because it's a harbor property.
Okay.
So it used to be in the general fund, there used to be a little section of this harbor, it used to be the general fund. Because they generate revenue, years ago, it's why we switched to a special fund. So the general fund does not fund the harbors at all. It's all from their own revenues, but it is part of the city, it's not our loss. We collect revenue, it doesn't go to the North Coast.
All right, thank you. Thank you. And Councilman Quincy has a follow-up. We have, can we see the numbers created? Sure. And we actually have some to follow with us after.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And how much money is in that fund?
Thank you. All right, seeing no other questions, ordinance number 404-2026 stands approved, please sign it. We're going to go to finance that has a couple of guests. Actually, let's just do
To the left of the sign, right off the sign set, to the left of the map.
Development is 401-2026. First one is ordinance number 401-2026 by council members Starr, Santana, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance to designate certain parcels located within the midline development area as priority investment area pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 122.161 to declare said parcels as brownfield sites requiring environmental remediation suitable for redevelopment and to authorize a 5-year tax exemption for improvements to such property pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 5727.76.
Thank you, Council President and the Finance Committee for having us here today. We believe most of you are aware of the city's collaborative partnership to create and seed the Site Readiness Fund for Good Jobs. Today, our team will walk you through an opportunity to leverage significant grant dollars from the state to address one of the city's largest concentrations of vacant industrial land within the city of Cleveland. I'm going to invite our Brownfields manager, John Fosbender, to provide a little bit more context and to introduce our guests who will walk you through the one-pager.
Thank you. I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to work with the Site Fund since its inception, and have been able to see the torrid pace with which they are developing and buying new properties and cleaning them up and getting them ready for development. This designation that we're asking the council to make would open up a greater amount of grant funds through the Ohio Department of Development Brownfield Remediation Program. And thankfully I have with me Rick Barter, who's the Director of Site Development at Site Fund, Orlando Grant, who's the Manager of Community Engagement, and Catherine Clarice, who's a consultant with TRC, and they're going to take it from here.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for hearing our piece of legislation. Wonderful to be back here at the table. As John said, and Trudy mentioned, the Site Fund was created in 2023 to return 1,000 acres of vacant industrial land to productive use and create good jobs for Cleveland residents. We are working on designating today a specific area on the near east side of Cleveland in accordance with new Ohio Department of Development brownfield guidelines to allow us to designate a project area which will be able to apply for up to $10 million in brownfield funding. Now, certain neighborhoods have been previous recipients of brownfield funding, but every year the state of Ohio continues to change their guidance and their rules, and this year they created this new designation called a priority investment area, which is basically a collection of former vacant industrial sites that are heavy contamination and places where we are currently working. So many of these sites have sat idle for decades, environmental challenges that have prevented reinvestment, and this is an attempt for us to turn some of those vacant and abandoned factories back into productive use by being able to apply for this grant funding program.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
I think if I can just add to kind of wrap it up, an important piece of this is that typically we'll have to apply annually for up to a $1 million allocation. This specific designation would allow us to be eligible for up to $10 million. So it's a very significant opportunity for us to leverage the funds that the city has already put into the project. We also are not asking for the city to add any additional funds. This is purely a designation.
Got it. So just give me a sense of where the midline development area is at again.
To the chair. Sorry.
Go for it.
The midline development area is roughly a collection of 89 acres, 52 parcels that will stretch along the Norfolk Southern rail line that will go from Euclid Avenue to Opportunity Corridor.
Okay. And that covers mainly Ward 5 or what other ward?
Entirely in Ward 5.
Entirely in Ward 5. Okay. All right. This went through DPS. Councilwoman Santana.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vetted and passed for DPS.
Thank you. Councilman Starr.
Council President.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 401-2026 stands approved. Councilman Pelisic has a quick question.
Yes, first off, before you guys split, I think it's very important, this whole initiative. Could you provide to us the sites that you already have and are working on? That would be very helpful. Citywide, broken down by ward, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr.
Would you
Chair.
like me to, through the councilman,
Do our connection right there.
Yeah.
through the chair to the councilman, would you like me to list them?
He'll send them.
Oh,
You'll
okay.
send them through Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll facilitate that.
All right, so if you can work with Ms. Andrew Juicy to facilitate that, that'd be great, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next ordinance is ordinance number 402-2026 by Councilmember Slight, Santana and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency
My due
ordinance
date's
authorizing the Director of
Thursday,
Development
so
to
it just
enter
depends when she
a loan
comes.
agreement with Guardian Structural
planning to.
Technologies or its designee to provide economic development assistance to partially finance the acquisition of machinery and equipment associated with the company's expansion to the building located at 18105 Cleveland Parkway and other associated costs necessary to acquire the machinery. Director.
Thank you, Council President Griffin and the Finance Committee. This is our second and final piece for the day. We are seeking council approval to provide a loan to a growing manufacturing company who we're really excited to support as they expand their operations within the city of Cleveland, thankfully. I'll invite our project manager, Bobby Bruno, to tell you a little bit more about the company and walk you through the proposed loan structure and also introduce our guest.
Good afternoon. So happy to be joined here by Brett Crudell from the company. So this company is Guardian Structural Technologies. They're a Cleveland manufacturer of high-performance, innovative building envelope systems comprised of galvanized steel and insulated foam, which is really sort of fancy way of saying cool new building technology that I'm not the expert on, but this man is expert on. And so they currently take up about 15,000 square feet in Ward 13 on their own space. So they need a second location to expand to meet this kind of, all this new housing demand that's happening. So they've identified a second building at 18105 Cleveland Parkway to sign a lease at. And they need about $1.5 million of equipment to fill that building and get it planted. The space they'll take up will be about 35,000 square feet to start, and it will expand to about 48,000 square feet over time. And this piece of machinery is a hot wire manufacturing piece of equipment, and so this will kind of add like 5 or 8 times production speed and capacity for Guardian's operation as they seek to fill all these new opportunities they're getting. As a result, they've requested a $500,000 loan from the Department of Development to assist with that. The loan term, so this would be loan of that full $500,000 request. This would be a 7-year loan term at 5%. And the huge benefit to the city is the retention of 11 FTEs and the creation of 16 new full-time W-2 employees. This will add payroll to the city of Cleveland to the tune of about $967,000. That is about $80,000 per job created in annual salary. And that will benefit the annual income tax base by about $24,000. So with that, respectfully requesting approval of this loan request to Guardian Structural Technologies.
Thank you. Councilwoman Santana?
Oh, sorry. It was vetted and approved, passed by DPS.
Thank you. Councilman
Charles Lyman. Thank you. Happy to help this company get a second location in the West Park neighborhood so that companies together can help this company grow. And I know there's a lot of interest specifically in what you do, given what we are trying to accomplish here of creating new housing. It's also affordable, so I think this is a great partnership that I'm happy to help facilitate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilman Chris Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm excited about this piece. I've been visiting Guardian Structural Technology. They do a very innovative process for buildings and homes. I wanted to be added as a co-sponsor to this, if I could. I didn't see mine updated, so if I could just be added. Appreciate it.
Could we make sure that Councilman Harsh is added? What is that, 402? 401?
No, this is 2.
It's 402. Yeah,
402.
402. Okay, thank you so much, Councilman Casey.
Thank you,
Last
Mr. Chairman.
question.
Mr. Chairman, to the director,
Project manager.
project manager. At Guardian, you have no intention of leaving the current spot, right? I just want to make sure that we're not, I'm not going to be left like massive, vacant property because you guys, okay, all right, just making sure. All right, good luck, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Michael Pelosi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to my own colleagues, and to the department, and to the gentleman who's here at the table. So, is this for both commercial and residential construction?
Through the chair to Councilman Prince, this company can do both commercial and residential construction, yes.
So it is a prefab wall panel,
Do you want to talk through it?
Correct, yes.
and you just lift it, put it in place?
Correct, 8-foot wide sections.
Okay, have you built any houses in the city of Cleveland with this process?
Yeah, so roughly, I think 30 at this point.
30. Could you could you send the members of council some information on that?
And Channel
And
20
pull
is
it
having
close.
technical problems.
Pull it close to you. Gotta pull it
Pull it
close.
close to you, but Channel 20 is having technical problems.
Yeah.
So yes, we could do that.
Through the chair to the councilman also, I believe when we were at the table for DPNS on Tuesday, DJ, another owner of the company, had mentioned that a couple projects are wrapping up on Buckeye, and that Elwood.
We're in the process of going.
Yes, so we were going to try to coordinate once those are, a site visit for everybody.
Because I think we've all come to the realization, Kenny, because I've been pushing modular for years and years, construction. We have to look at different types of construction technologies and what we can put up that is quick, cost-effective, and durability. And so I'm looking myself, I've been working with Habitat on projects, but I'm looking at all types of other opportunities. So you contract with, Mr. Chairman, you contract with developers to put these up, or you are the contractor, you are the developer?
No, we work with developers.
Okay, so whatever information you can supply to us would be very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 402-2026 as amended or added with Councilman Harsh's name stands approved. Thank you. We're going to go to city planning. Request an emergency ordinance authorizing the director of city planning to employ one or more professional consultants to enhance the existing form-based code pilot program and expand the form-based code to additional districts and geographies for a period of 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew, exercisable with additional legislative authority. And the amendment states as follows. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in section 1, at line 6, strike and expand the form-based code to additional districts and geographies. Number 2, in section 2, at the end, insert the Director of City Planning shall provide written notice to the Clerk of Council whenever any purchase is made through the cooperative process, which notice shall include the details of such cooperative purchases. This was dated 3/10/26, signed by Mary Cornley, Assistant Director of Law, and Assistant Director and Director.
Good afternoon, Council President Shannon Leonard, Chief Zoning Administrator.
I apologize, I have one more amendment that I did not see read. And I want to make sure I get this. This is, at the end of section 2, insert the Director of City Planning shall provide written notice to the Clerk of Court whenever any purchase is made through the cooperative process, which notice shall include details of such cooperative purchases. And this is section 3, should be changed from 6926 to 6985. Do I have anybody to proffer that amendment?
So moved.
Councilman Slife has proffered the
I'll
amendment.
second.
Do we have a second? Second is Councilwoman Jasmine Santana. All right, so it's been properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You say clerk of court, just to make sure it's clerk of council.
Clerk of Council. Thank you for the clarification. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So there's one nay. Please note the name. Thank you. Please move forward.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Council President Shannon Leonard, Chief Zoning Administrator. I'm joined here by Director Callie Mersman, as well as our associate, our GIS planner, Mr. Ari Lazaritis. So this ordinance, we're just going to kind of go through some zoning 101 real quick. What is form-based code and why do we need it? And then the progress to date and looking forward, which is this specific ordinance that we're requesting here. So zoning regulations are made up of two main components. You have the text that describes what should or can happen on any given parcel of property. And then you have the maps that show where a given textual regulation applies. So that's your zoning map that you see here in the corner. The way that a zoning regulations are applied to a parcel can be adjusted in two ways. Either you can seek a use or area variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals, or you can have legislation by council, as you all are fully aware of. Any changes to the text regulations or the zoning maps must be passed by City Planning Commission, as well as legislated through City Council with a mandatory public hearing component. So some examples of recently legislated zoning changes was the form-based code pilot that was passed in the summer of 2024. We also had the smoke shop regulations that most recently passed, as well as the small box discount retail stores that passed in 2022. And then you've obviously seen several at DPNS of various project-specific map changes, as well as some district map changes. And so what is the difference? So we have two zoning codes currently. We have what is known as Euclidean, where it's really organized around separated uses. It was last comprehensively updated in 1959, which codified a suburban style development preference, and it made many existing buildings in mixed-use neighborhoods non-conforming. So this often requires extra burden through the Board of Zoning Appeals or project-specific map changes that you all see here. And so what the city has been doing with the pilot, as well as moving more towards a form-based code, which is a more modern way to do zoning across the city. It's designed to be more consistent with the historic built form of the city, as well as allow complementary uses, such as residential, office, and small business. It also supports walkable, mixed-use, mixed-income communities, and it also reduces the administrative, procedural, and financial burdens, not only on city staff, but also developers and residents across the city. And so why are we moving more towards a form-based code? The zoning code today primarily focuses on how buildings are used, like can residential, commercial, industrial, and less applies on whether that actually fits within the city itself or within the land use patterns generally. Our neighborhoods are not all the same, and so it's a very one-size-fits-all, which again reduces in several trips to the Board of Zoning Appeals for variances that are commonly given. And then it also shifts the focus from how buildings are used or how they look to how they look, feel, and fit within the city. So how does that use actually sit within not just that specific structure on that specific lot, but through the whole street itself, right? So a lot of times the design review process that you see, that is baked actually into the form-based code. And this allows for more flexibility, ensuring new development matches not just the use, but also the scale and design of the surrounding community. It also expands equitable options for housing and transportation, so every neighborhood can grow in a way that works for the people who live there. So what can the community expect? For most homeowners, little will change. We're updating outdated rules so that it's easier to repair, refinance, and rebuild your home without any unnecessary zoning hurdles. We're simplifying the code so it's easier to understand and use, so it's a lot more pictorial, more hands-on for just the average person. It also allows for more housing options within the neighborhood, so expanding choices for different incomes and life stages while also preserving the character of your neighborhood. And then also easier for small businesses to open and grow. So streamlining permits and making it easier to activate existing storefronts that are currently vacant. And so just a couple examples of the current neighborhood challenges and some of the solutions that have come about through the pilot is the current zoning separates those land uses, which can lead to sprawl and make it harder for access to everyday amenities and jobs without a car. The form-based code encourages a mix of uses along commercial corridors, making it easier to walk to shop services and job opportunities. In terms of affordability and inclusivity, it limits housing supply and can fall out of step with demand due to complex restrictive regulations. We know that through the various, the amount of residential that is going through the Board of Zoning Appeals on a week-to-week basis. The form-based code actually expands the range of housing options for different incomes and life stages while ensuring new development fits in the character of the neighborhood. So to give you a good example, our current code has single-family, two-family, and then multifamily, meaning that you can have one-family houses, two-family houses, or unlimited housing, as much as you can fit on a lot. The form-based code allows for a more gradual shift in density, so you go from single-family, two-family, three-family, four-family, up to 8 units before you go to multifamily. Which is as many units as you can fit within the parameters of the envelope. It also restricts many home-based and small-scale business, creating barriers for blue-collar entrepreneurs. So many low-cost barrier to entry positions are very hard in our current code. Whereas the form-based code supports a wider range of building types and uses, making it easier for small businesses to start, grow, and thrive within their community. So we're talking about smaller enterprises such as maybe a mortgage broker, or if you're doing any kind of crafting and you're selling your services, the form-based code allows that in specific areas with certain restrictions based on hours of operation, appointment only, things of that nature. And then streamlined administrative processes and user-friendly. So our current zoning lacks clear, consistent permitting process, making applications difficult for both staff and the public to navigate. The form-based code establishes more of a modern application and permitting process that reflects how development works today. The current zoning is also text-heavy and difficult to interpret, making regulations hard to understand and apply, whereas the form-based code uses clear language and lots of visual standards, making the code easier to navigate, understand, and use. Why the form-based code makes it easier for residents to invest in their homes. This attracts new housing and local businesses, and it also removes barriers to good projects that can move forward faster. What this means, some examples, is a vacant storefront can more easily become a cafe or a small business. A homeowner can add a unit for a family for rental income. New housing can be built that fits the scale of the block, so that any home that is built can fit in within the scale of the existing homes on those streets. And mixed-use corridors can support a variety of shops, services, and jobs within walking distance to every home. So some of the progress to date and looking forward with the form-based code. Pre-2019, as you all may remember, the partnership with the Urban Lands Institute, as well as a variety of other stakeholders, there were studies that occurred, as well as some seminars to really kind of set the stage for the initial phase of the pilot. And in 2019 to 2024, there was the creation of the form-based code pilot. There was significant planning, policy, community engagement, and legislation that created the 4 pilot neighborhoods of Detroit, Shoreway, Cadell, as well as the Huff neighborhood, and then 2 areas along Opportunity Corridor. And that lasted far longer than expected due to the COVID-20 pandemic. And then our FBRC refinement that we've been looking towards is policy and planning, community engagement and legislation to update our existing form-based code text with the lessons learned from this pilot. We would like to build out new code sections, districts to address desired forms and uses. We would like to map the form-based code in additional areas with public and council support. And then enhance the community notification and input opportunities for the form-based code projects. And so in 2024, the form-based code pilot was adopted under Title 7A into the ordinances, and it was mapped in those 4 locations that I had just spoke about. And then 4 semi-annual reports are available summarizing the experience with the form-based code to date, which you all received, I believe, last week. However, that is an ongoing process. This is just give you an idea of the reports to date. This was a shot from November when we originally went through Planning Commission. You all have received a more up-to-date report as of last week. So the purpose of this ordinance is really additional planning, community engagement, and policy work are required to create the zoning recommendations from the form-based code, so text and map changes, to bring the city council for consideration. This is really using money that was allotted and that we're asking to be able to bring into use. Any map changes or text changes or code changes would obviously have to be legislative in nature and come before the council. And so we are asking to use this professional services to support the following. And from the form-based code, what we have learned is introducing or revising district types to accommodate uses not well served today, such as automotive, industrial, entertainment, waterfront, and transit-oriented development. We want to build on lessons from the pilot districts and refinement of those provisions around the administration of the code, community notification, streetscape easements, accessory dwelling units, and first floor residential restrictions that were put in place prior to COVID. We would like to address conflicts with the fire code that have posed barriers to infill and adaptive reuse in built-out context, and that's across both codes. We would like to create a framework for predictable, user-friendly standards that support housing variety, flexibility of emerging uses, and a high-quality public realm, as well as support community engagement and clear communication to residents. So going through those really quickly and briefly, the administration and usability, we want to clarify the permitting pathways, variance standards, and the cumulative versus non-cumulative use table. So for example, under the Euclidean code, our predominant code, everything is separated by uses. What's allowed in a less restrictive district is generally not allowed in a more restrictive district. And it kind of follows this hierarchy of uses, if you will. In the form-based code, it allows that hierarchy of uses, but we really want to determine if we are looking for more specific in terms of, is this permitted, is this not permitted, this is a conditional use. And we want to reduce the reliance on the ad hoc relief of embedding predictable standards. So the ad hoc relief at Board of Zoning Appeals or through design review. We want to also clarify how the accessory dwelling units, additions, garages, and multiple structures on a lot are treated under the form-based code. We want to vary the flexibility to support multi-generational housing as well as age-in-place housing, and how that works on the site or a lot. The other thing that we would like to look at is the ground floor height and residential restrictions. As we've gone through this pilot, what we have come to term is reassess whether the ground floor clear heights and active use thresholds are necessary and or helpful as it pertains to certain projects. So to just give an example, for many OFA type projects, they don't like to go above that ground story height of 8 feet because of financing issues. And so, one of the things we want to look at is, maybe bringing that down for specific projects or across the board. And then the other item here is evaluating whether the prohibitions on residential at the first floor in our urban node districts and the outright ban on urban innovation campus districts align with our market demand and housing goals. So in a post-COVID world, we have noticed that there's lots and lots of vacant storefronts, and that residential restriction has often created issues. And I think there's a way to have eyes on the street without outright prohibiting, residential in the first floor. The other is district types and uses. So for a modern zoning code that applies to the whole city as a singular code, a good zoning code provides a place for everything and everything in its place. We would like to really introduce or revise districts to capture uses not well addressed. So for instance, automotive-oriented uses are completely prohibited in the form-based code pilot districts currently, but we know that they exist. Should they be on every corner? No, but maybe there's a place for them specifically in the city that would, that is appropriate. True industrial uses, so true manufacturing, warehousing, and distribution, and then emerging tech uses, so data centers, for instance, where that needs to go in the city needs to be revised. The other thing is transit-oriented development districts, so waterfront and riverfront districts align with vision for the valley and lakefront planning, as well as emerging uses such as maker spaces, artisan production, and hybrid work-live options. All of these types of things are not addressed in the pilot district, so they are not appropriate to expand to everywhere in the city at this time. And then we would also look at the streetscape easement and frontage standards of the form-based code. We want to evaluate how the streetscape easement requirement functions on built-out corridors, and so proposing differentiated standards by corridor type, such as obviously Detroit and West 25th are very much different than Broadway or say Lorraine, and we want to ensure feasibility on those constrained sites. And then as it pertains to the fire code and infill development, we know that in practice, stringent fire code application has created barriers for infill development and adaptive reuse projects. So we would like to work with a consultant to identify, creative code acceptable strategies that balance life safety with urban form goals, including alternative compliance paths and design mitigation appropriate for Cleveland's built-out urban context. And then design and technical standards, review door spacing, transparency, amenity space, parking location and screening, EV charging and garage placement. All of these are not quite built out yet in the existing form-based code, and we would like to tackle that as those are growing issues across the city. And then we want to recommend adjustments to balance functionality with those design quality standards that have been adopted by Planning Commission and that are design guidelines throughout the city. And then eventually get to recommendations for future map changes. So potentially proposing additional locations across the city where the City Planning Commission as well as the council could or should consider map changes that apply to form-based code. And lastly, communications and community input, increase community understanding and comfort with the form-based code through clear communications and digestible resources, collect community input to inform policy choices and continue to shape our form-based code, and recommend mechanisms for community information input about future developments under the form-based code. So one of the things that have come up is how can we inform the public. One of the ways that we've started doing is placing things on our website and sending out mass notifications, and then also provide communications and community engagement support and strengthen those practices under form-based code projects. And so this is just giving you an example of Birthing Beautiful Communities in the Huff neighborhood that was developed under the form-based code. And then the Huff Senior on the lower left corner, you can see also was a project that was developed and approved under the form-based code. Both of these came in at a time where the form-based code wasn't yet adopted, but aspired to develop to the code requirements, and did so, and are now in either their construction phases or preliminary permit, the end of their permitting phases. And for that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. I know that I've had a lot of this in the Opportunity Corridor, a couple of the areas that we've had, so it's worked pretty decent for me over in the Opportunity Corridor, especially the new economy neighborhood, so appreciate it. Councilman Santana, this was in DPS.
Yes, this was heard and vetted. I do have a question, just because I've been getting asked. This is not to implement any form-based zoning at this point. This is just to hire a consultant that is going to review the data and give us feedback and input. But council members will decide if they move forward whatever project that is decided on, correct?
Yeah, through the council president to the chairwoman, yes, that's correct. This is for money that we had already set aside for professional services. This will allow us to go ahead and put that RFP or RFQ out to engage a consultant to go through this process.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do you have any other questions regarding ordinance number 1398-2025? Star and Melissa.
Oh,
Go ahead, Councilman.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a lot said here, a lot said. So to follow up on Councilwoman Santana's on the question, at some point you'll be coming back to us to actually vote for the body to vote on the new zoning code. I'm trying to explain and say it in simple terms and as direct as I can so our viewing public can understand this. Because zoning has always been a hot issue and topic in our neighborhoods. So at some point, you're going to come back to us to vote on a zoning code, correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's correct. This is not the text or any map amendments. Any of those will come back through this body.
Okay. So when you come back to us, you'll bring us an entire map of the city of Cleveland based on wards, correct?
In terms of the entire map, that may not be created through this proposal, but what we are asking through this proposal is to amend the text of the legislation, and any future map amendments would go through council. But if we are open to doing the full city, we could definitely talk
But,
about that.
Mr. Chairman, if you're going to ask us to vote on it, why wouldn't we have the ability to look at the map layout for each of our wards?
To the councilman through the chair, you will have the ability to look at the map for any amendments that come. The rezoning process is pretty detail oriented, and so it's unlikely we would come back with the entire city at one time. It's most likely that we will go by district or by neighborhood.
You might have a problem there. Because you're going to ask me to vote on a zoning code, and I don't know how my neighborhood's going to look. So why should I vote for that?
Through the chair to the councilman, so there's two parts of this. You have the text and the map. The text is the development of the text itself, so development standards as well as districts. You could say they're kind of like use districts,
Yes.
right? And those are just creating them without mapping them. But if you were to choose to map them, we would obviously work with you one-on-one to do that if you would like to do that with the map and the districts filled out.
Well, again, I want to go back, Mr. Chairman, to what I said. The zoning code was initially set, correct me if I'm wrong, in 1929. It was revised in 49, and then you mentioned 59. So I wasn't clear what took place in 59.
Through the chair to the councilman, there has been amendments to the code since 1929, so 96 years
Right.
of code changes. There was a large overhaul in 1929 and
Right.
1949. If I said
Right.
1959, I might have misspoke.
Okay.
But there was, 1949 is when the city was trying to zone more like the suburbs in a lot of respects, in a
Right.
way to
Right.
stop the people from leaving the city.
Right, because up to 29, it was a free-for-all in the city, and then the code was established in 49. Again, there were major changes. I just want to make sure that, because in the day, what most of us did, and I'm the only one left here, we tried to take action to protect our neighborhoods by creating we had local retail, general retail, etc. So most of us on our commercial districts at the time rezoned to local retail to protect us from used car lots, establishment with live entertainment, adult uses. I could go down the list, billiard hall, pool halls. We did that to protect our commercial districts, plus we had the single family use districts, two-family, multifamily, etc. So obviously what's being proposed are significant changes to bring, quote unquote, I guess, to bring us into the 21st century. But I want to make sure, Mr. Chairman, to the department, that in the course of doing that, I want to make sure that our residential districts are still protected. Because when I watched this I watched the show on Saturday, in fact, it was on Sunday, this old house, where now some cities are allowing the construction of another unit behind an existing home for mom and dad, or grandma and grandpa. But our lots in the city of Cleveland are basically, in my own neighborhood, 40 to 50 foot in width and maybe 100 feet to 125 feet in depth, approximately, again, 4,000 square foot lots. And I'm watching this on Sunday, saying to myself, well, wait a minute, how are you going to build another unit behind the existing unit? The density is the question. I want to make sure whatever action we're taking does not allow that without a variance.
Through the council president to the chair, to the councilman. So where the single-family districts are currently mapped, they have stayed. We have not rezoned any of those single-family districts. Where there's two-family districts currently, you can put up to 2 dwelling units on a lot. You have to fit within the setbacks. And the same is true in the form-based code where it is mapped house 3 or house 4.
And you're going to be able to do that without a variance? Put another unit on the property?
You can only place it on the lot if you meet within the setbacks in the envelope that's permitted on a site or a lot. That's correct.
Okay. Well, again, I want to make sure that all of a sudden, because you know what's happening in our city with these limited liability companies coming in, buying up everything they can, that they're not going to try to jam additional units on a piece of property with just another area, what they look upon as another more cash flow out of that property. I'm concerned about density in my own neighborhood on some properties. So I want to make sure that's protected. My last question, I won't belabor the point, Mr. Chairman. And again, where in this form-based code, or what you're going to have the consultant coming back to, where do front-load garages come in?
Through the council president to the chairman, to the councilman, I apologize. So front-loaded garages are not addressed in this code, in the form-based code, other than parking needs to be behind the building or in the rear, as it is today in our current code, or in the Euclidean code. And so that is one of the things that we would like to address in the text of the form-based code pilot. Is there a proper location for the front-loaded garage or the front-facing garage?
Because right now, you're not allowing it, Mr. Chairman, and that's been a big issue with me when I have developers who want to put in front-load garages in neighborhoods that are highly distressed, vacant lots, abandoned houses, and yet we will not let a development take hold without a front-load garage. I don't get it, and I've said it repeatedly, I'm going to continue to say it. It's asinine. I got a front-load garage on my house, and my neighbor across the street has a rear-load garage. And so at the end of the day, we've got to make things, we just heard, and we just came out of caucus where Tom McNary, okay, we got 18,000 vacant lots in the city. We need new development. And when we're saying, no, you can't build if you want to put in a front-load garage, to me, it's ridiculous. We need to be supportive of developers. If you're violating the setback provision, that's one thing. But if you're complying with the setback provision and you want to put in a front-load garage, I don't understand what the issue is with this administration about front-load garages. Come on now, really? We need to support housing development in our neighborhoods. And if a developer wants to put in a front-load garage, you ought to be kissing their behind, okay, to get the new houses put up in our neighborhood. And so that's been an issue with me. But I'm not going to vote for anything, any change in the zoning code until I want to see my ward. I want to see Ward 10, how it lays out in Ward 10. And that's my opinion. I don't know if anyone shares it with me, but that's my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Richard Starr. Yes, Council President, just with this ordinance, I was looking up and I seen, obviously, it was introduced last November and it wasn't heard until this year. Within this ordinance 1398, what are the specific outcomes are we expecting from the consultant, and how will you measure success of the children?
The councilman through the chair, specific outcomes include text recommendations for us to bring back to city council for the form-based code zoning text on the topics that our chief zoning administrator Shannon Leader laid out in the presentation, as well as community engagement and communication tools around those changes and to inform those changes. We also anticipate, as Councilman Valencia was alluding to, recommendations in terms of where to apply, where to map those text, those zoning text regulations onto specific parcels, of course, which we would back to council and talk about specific regulations. So there are these two elements in zoning code for the chair. The text is in the codified ordinances, is back to council, and then how that text is mapped onto specific parcels. So this work will create recommendations that bring back to council to legislate those items.
Okay, so are we expanding form-based code because we know that it is effective currently, or are we still in that pilot phase until we get all the results that are needed through the chair?
Through the chair to the councilman. So ideally, in the long run, we would be operating under one single modern zoning code to administer across the city. In this particular run, we know from the pilot of, some of the things that are playing out in the real world that don't necessarily align with the intent. And so we're trying to fix those items and then also provide for more districts, if you will, zoning districts, to accommodate it for all types of uses and building forms across the city in hopes to bring back before this body at some point in the future, at the end of this, to work with council one-on-one as well as across the board in terms of applying the zoning districts in more areas across the city. But in this specific instance, what we're just asking out of this item is to engage put the RFP out with and engage a consultant to help us develop that and add staff capacity.
Okay, so as I think about what you're saying to the council president, the chief zoning expert, Ms. Leonard, I just think about gentrification. So when we're getting ready to expand the form-based code into these different neighborhoods, how do we make sure that we are not participating in basically accelerating displacement of residents or communities and gentrification in those most vulnerable neighborhoods? And do we have anything in place as far as protections for the current residents, which you talked about with this RFP or this change for the chair?
Through the council president to the councilman, so gentrification is a quite large issue that's not only protected through zoning, but I understand the question. It's multiple layers of the city that have to partake from community development, economic development, as well as zoning. But what we're asking for through this piece of legislation is to engage the consultant, really to fix the text, expand the text, and then work with you all as well as other departments through the city as it pertains to actually mapping new districts in different areas of the city.
Thank you. And then I definitely will ask from the standpoint of consultants, sometimes I'm just confused on the reason why we do a lot of consultants for different projects and I still don't understand the last 3 years. Not necessarily your department or any other department, or your department in particular. But what are we doing, why are we actually going through this RFP process or this reaching out to a consultant process instead of building like capacity internally in our department to be able to have planning department to be able to do this type of work, from the standpoint, I know it's $125,000, and with it being $125,000, how do we justify that this $125,000 investment is something that is going to help in the long run as far as what type of long-term value are we going to get to the city from this investment of $125,000 to a consultant as opposed to building this type of work internally inside of the Department of Planning to the council president?
Through the council president to the councilman, well, first and foremost, for the city of Cleveland, our zoning section went from 1 and 2 people to now roughly 7 people that deals with strategic zoning across the city the entire city itself, but also does all of the permitting and zoning reviews for any type of development or renovations or any of those things. And so what we're looking to do is add capacity to our staff in that regard by adding a consultant, because this is quite a large undertaking when you're talking about rewriting the rules and regulations as it pertains to land use across the city. And I will defer to our director to provide a little bit more context for you.
The Councilman through the chair, I appreciate the question. It's really hard to build capacity within our existing staff as well. For this type of work specifically, working with a consultant is valuable because there are consultants that have experience with the same type of code transitions in other cities across the country. There are things that we can learn from them that we would not have the exposure to the broader perspective just within our staff. This is structured as a task order contract so that we can use them as much or as little as we need to for specific tasks to build out the zoning. My anticipation is that they will be especially helpful in drafting the text and taking lessons learned in terms of what has been helpful in zoning regulations text in other places, so that our staff have the best on-the-ground knowledge about where specific districts are most appropriate for specific parcels. And so as we go through this evolution of consolidating into one code, as Shannon said, there will be quite a lot of opportunity for our staff and our department to lean into their local knowledge of what's appropriate. And we work with some new stakeholders and working closely with council.
Thank you, and just from a standpoint, this was not heard in DPS, was it, Council President?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then with that standpoint, just from my whole belief is just trying to understand, the consulting piece of it, and spending those dollars. I do hear what the table was saying, Mr. President, on how they need to outsource it to be able to get those experts who understand the zoning or these changes that we're looking to do from the form-based code. I just want to make sure we have the answer to the question of how do we measure outcomes and actually what are we getting back in return on our investment when I don't know if we actually know that this process is actually proven much of anything for actual results, and if we're about to expand on it, what's the reason for us expanding on it if we don't know the deliverables? So that was just something that I just want to make sure I just give my thoughts, my opinion, because I do support the thoughtfulness of the planning department, but it has to be actually data driven for us to be able to see why we are spending this type of dollars on this type of project. And I yield, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 1398-2025 as amended stands approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go to MOCAP if I could for a brief moment. If we could with MOCAP, we do have a few amendments, and I do want to just state a couple of things as we make amendments. And what I'm going to do is read, these are all companion pieces, so I'm going to read all of them into the record, as well as the amendments. I will need someone to proffer an amendment. All right, first one is ordinance number 234-2026 as amended by Councilmembers Bishop, Santana, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance determining the method of making the public improvement of designing and constructing, rehabilitating, renovating, replacing, and otherwise improving recreation facilities, ancillary recreation buildings, parks and playgrounds, and other similar structures or amenities on city-owned and city-leased park property, including site improvements and appurtenances, and authorizing the Director of Parks and Recreation, Public Works, or Capital Projects as appropriate to enter into one or more public improvement contracts for the making of the improvements, enter into one or more professional services and other contracts needed to implement the improvement, to apply for and accept grants and gifts, and authorizing the direct employment of necessary labor for the Department of Parks and Recreation or Public Works or the Office of Capital Projects. I will read the amendment. It says there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in section 1, line 1, line 6. In section 1, line 6, strike 234-2026 and insert 234-2026B. In line 7, after ordinance, insert in the estimated sum of $12,801,500. In 2, section 2, line 3, after restricted income tax fund, insert fund number 20 SF 552, 20 SF 558, 20 SF 561.20, SF 565, 20 SF 577, 20 SF 584, 20 SF 590, 20 SF 595, 20 SF 700, 20 SF 708, 20 SF 714, 20 SF 720, and 20 SF 727. Lines 3 and 11, after unspent, insert recreation in quotations and strike future bonds in quotations and insert 2026 debt in quotations in all 4 places. Line 5, strike and shall be charged against the proper appropriation accounts. Line 11, after restricted income tax, insert fund number SF 552, 20 SF 558, 20 SF 561, 20 SF 565, 20 SF 577, 20 SF 584, 20 SF 590, 20 SF 595, 20 SF 700, 20 SF 708, 20 SF 714, 20 SF 720, and 20 SF 727. And then the last line, after gifts received, insert for any debt issuance that is not general obligation bonds. The Director of Finance shall notify the Clerk of Council to the type of debt issued and its terms. This was dated 3/25/26 by Nikki Delaney, Assistant Director of Law. And there is, it's a lot. There is one amendment, well, I believe we read that already. Is this separate? Is this separate? Okay. I have one more amendment for 234-2026. This is in section 1, strike in quotations 234-2026-B and replace with 234-2026C and strike 12 in quotations $12,801,500 and replace with $12,301,500. That is the amendment. Does anyone proffer that amendment?
So you say so moved, you're going to
Say so.
read it?
You say so.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Santana, a second, just so everybody can know what we're doing. We just believe that these are a couple of amendments that we wanted to look at the capital improvement plans, and I'll go over that in a second. So this is the recreation component, where basically we are not allocating the money that we originally were going to put for the reposition or put the recreation center across the convention center. Just so everybody can know in layman's terms what we're looking at doing. Number 2, this is amended 232-2026 as amended by council members Bishop, Valencic, Santana, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance determining the method of making the public improvement of designing and constructing or constructing, rehabilitating, renovating, replacing, and otherwise improving public facilities, buildings, and other similar structures, including site improvements and appurtenances, and authorizing the Director of Public Safety, Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and/or capital projects as appropriate to enter into one or more public improvement contracts for the making of the improvements, enter into one or more professional services and other contracts needed to implement the improvement, to apply for and accept grants and gifts, and authorizing the direct employment of the necessary labor for the Department of Public Safety, Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and Office of Capital Projects. And it states that there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in section 1, in the first paragraph, line 5, strike in quotations 232-2026-A and insert 232-2026-B. And line 6, after ordinance, insert the estimated sum of $22,254,400. And 2, in section 9, line 3, after restricted income tax fund, insert funds number 20 SF 566, 20 SF 585, 20 SF 587, 20 SF 588, 20 SF 591, 20 SF 596, 20 SF 701, 20 SF 705, 20 SF 711, 20 SF 715, 20 SF 721, and 20 SF 728. Lines 3 and 11, after unspent, insert public facilities and strike future bonds and insert in quotations 2026 debt in all 4 places. In line 5, strike and shall be charged against the proper appropriation accounts. Line 11, after restricted income tax fund, insert fund numbers 20 SF 566, 20 SF 585, 20 SF 587, 20 SF 588, 20 SF 591, 20 SF 596, 20 SF 701, 20 SF 705, 20 SF 711, 20 SF 715, 20 SF 721, and 20 SF 728. And then the last line, after gifts received, insert for any debt issuance that is not general obligation bonds, the Director of Finance shall notify the Clerk of Council of the type of debt issued and its terms. And there is an amendment to go with this, and this is for 234, but that's 232?
Yes.
2 amendments for 232. And basically, this is to amend the amendments made in MSP in section 1, strike 232-2026B and replace with 232-2026-C and 22,254,400, replace it with $15,254,400. Once again, these are companion pieces. These are for the City Hall renovations. What these have done in essence is in 232 remove the $7 million City Hall modernization project, and Council has requested the administration break out the City Hall modernization into separate legislation and have future discussions on ADA components, and the amendments remove City Hall modernization project and corrects the dollar amount. So in essence, there was money that the city MoCap was going to use to put towards the garden renovation that would have included massive renovations to the entrance at the garden level of City Hall. That also would have included a coffee shop as well as a repositioning of the Community Relations Board. And then they would have had $500,000 that would have renovated office space for parks and moved them across to the convention center. We do believe as a council, and many of the council members had a lot of discussion over this. I want to commend Councilman Bishop, who really had lengthy discussions over this. We really just feel that it's a good plan. We do want to make City Hall more ADA accessible and want to have further conversations so that we're more ADA accessible. We just feel that strongly at this point in time that there are other priorities that council has. So we are looking forward to having conversations about modernization in the future. Just as of right now, council did not have the appetite after talking with many of the members to move forward with those expenditures in the capital improvement. So that being said, I will now turn it over. Okay.
I move to accept the amendments as read.
Thank you, Councilman. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Santana has seconded, so the amendment has been moved and seconded. So 232 and 234 as amended, we will now hear any discussion on those items. Councilman Brian Casey, or first of all, let me give the chairman, if he would, Councilman Bishop, or did you have any comments you would like to make before we move this forward?
Mr. Chairman, we vetted this in MSP and we supported for passage. And we are looking forward to the new capital improvement plan. So we can save the city's money. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, appreciate it. I have Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the Director, in 232, what was the allotted amount for, that was set aside to make the west end of the building ADA compliant?
The 232, the original allocation amount would have been $22,254,400, and now we would remove $7 million of that, which would have gone towards the renovation of the garden area, which brings it to $15,254,400. And then with the recreation renovations, move over into the other, to the convention center, that would have been $500.
Right, but Mr. Chairman, either to the chairman or to the director,
Yeah, this is it.
the $7 million was for the whole renovation of the garden level, correct? And that included everything, which included making the west end ADA compliant. Of that $7 million, how much was designated or set aside to make the west end of the building? How much is it going to cost to make the west end of the building ADA compliant?
Through the chairman and councilman, thank you. First of all, thanks for having us here today. To my right, I have Mark Dulick, who's the manager of site development and architecture and site development. And to my left, I think most folks know this is Jim McKnight, who designs and manages our construction of parks. Through the chairman and councilman, your question related to the ADA components of the $7 million. We did submit to council a phasing plan, and that included $4,354,740 related to ADA-related improvements, and $2,954,250 that related to non-ADA related improvements. I do want to emphasize that you need a place to receive folks after you build the entrance, and it's not feasible to have two safety checkpoints without adding additional operating costs to the city. So that's why the phasing had to split out what's needed to not just build the entrance, but to receive those folks with one safety checkpoint.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director, so you're telling me it's all enough, right?
Through the chairman and councilman, no, I just read two different numbers to you. That's phase 1 and phase 2. If council wish to greenlight phase 1.
Yeah, but what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, to the director, is that we can't do just the ADA compliant part of it without doing the other part, right?
No, sir, that's not what I said.
Okay, so then you are saying, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that there is a possibility that we can do just the ADA compliant side of it without redoing the rest of the garden lot, the basement.
Through the chairman and councilman, yes, we submitted a phasing plan to city council that split it into two parts.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilman, I'd be more than willing if we could to go over that, because pretty much what you were saying was what gave us pause.
Okay.
Because even though we are firmly in support of the ADA, there are components of the plan that would still need to be done in order to accommodate that side for ADA. So sort of the thought process was, let's just go ahead and pull it all out and then see what we can work with the administration to try to come up with something that is more ADA accessible, but it's just didn't want to do the entire plan. And quite frankly, when we went through the entire plan, and tell me if I'm wrong, Director, there are elements that actually would have added up to more than $7 million. There would have been other components that would have, when we did it in totality, that also gave us a pause that it could have been more dollars. Is that correct as well?
Mr. Chairman, so that is not correct. So the $7 million will be the entire project. What council also did, though, is we held back the $500,000, which was to move recreation, parks and recreation over to public auditorium to join them with the rest of the admin staff. So if that's what you mean, yes, it's over 7 million, but those are really two different elements.
So once again, we'll talk with our staff, because when we added up some other elements, that was the other thing that gave us pause, that it looked like there was some other cost with that. And that's one of the reasons why we want to really slow this down, go over this again, and see what we believe is something that we can do and what we don't believe is feasible. But that's why we want to pull that part out. Councilman.
And Mr. Chairman, I've been a huge proponent of making this building ADA compliant for many, many years. Mr. Chairman, to the director, these dollars are going to be bonded out, correct? No, these are, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and the Director, just a reminder that we talked to council about how there's last 2025 in April, how there's a change in how we're funding capital improvement plans this year. So it's first funded with general fund dollars, and then towards the end of the year, they'll be bonded out.
So then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, even though the council at this point is pulling $7 million out, we still will have that $7 million laying around if the council decides, however, to have that money allocated for a possible ADA availability down the road.
Through the chairman of the council, so through this new process, if any project is not included in the capital plan that comes through council at this time of year, which really these should come through in January so we could hit, the construction season, we can come back to council with a separate piece of legislation that would authorize the project and make it eligible for bond funds later in the year. So that's what we intend to do. We appreciate this piece of legislation being heard, both of these, so that we can get these projects started that are on the approved list. But we're also looking forward to more discussions about the ADA enhancements, because it's really about letting everybody access City Hall without so many burdens and hurdles, and not queuing up into the garage and not having to wait for somebody in the garage and not having to figure out a way to get your wheelchair through security.
All right, and then my last question, I just want to make sure, I've asked it 100 times, I already know the answer. Mr. Chairman, to the director, there is no capital dollars for Cleveland Public Power this year, correct?
Through the chairman and the councilman, that is correct. We've received no request. We've added no money in here for CPD.
Well, Mr. Chairman, to the director, I'll push back a little on that you received no request, because I've been asking for money for 10 years now. Okay, so I don't know what a request has to be, but if that's the case, then please put it on your radar, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that I have a formal request for capital dollars for Cleveland Public Power the next time we come up with a capital project.
Through the chairman and the councilman, Brooke Saban on your staff puts a request in for council members to let us know what your priorities are, and that was not on your priority list. And furthermore, capital projects does not manage CPP's budget. So as they come through city council for discussion hearings, I would suggest that that's when that is brought up.
All right, well, it's good to know that, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that Cleveland Public Power is not, just as you say, it's not a priority for city council. Obviously, it's not a priority for the administration, because you didn't come up with it either. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that I clarify and make sure that everybody understands what I was talking about. Under the 5-year capital plan, under City Hall modernization, there was scheduled to be $7 million for this year, $500,000 in 2027. In 2028, $7 million. In 2029, half the $500,000, and then in 2030, it would have been another $7 million. So when I said that in its totality, I'm looking at the next 5 years. Okay? So what I really want us to do, if we could, is we want to re-engage the MOCAP in order to see how we can have a plan that can still work on looking at ADA accessibility. However, I think that we can start from scratch with that in mind. Councilman Kevin Conley.
You say start from scratch. I mean, CPU as well as the director, you got different timelines. And he just mentioned that it needs to be a certain time period, but he didn't say when. Because I'm championing this disability piece, and it gotta be there. Now I know people mention about the coffee shop, but I have to see the scopes. You can say what you want to say, coffee shop, this and that, their scopes when it comes down to projects. That I do know. So I'm gonna look at all of that, as well as the timeline for this director just mentioned. It gotta be in by a certain time to have it done. Now, I'm echoing what Councilman Brian Casey saying about that with disabilities. It's a shame. It's a shame. You're not opening up. You already know. And that's just my passion. You gotta have people with disabilities. We gotta open this place up for them. And he never ever mentioned CP. When you said we're gonna meet, we're going to discuss, but when?
Director, did you have a date that we said that this had to be done? I thought you said that we could always bring legislation back in.
Mr. Chairman, so the city council put a restriction on when these approved projects need to be contracted. So each piece of CIP legislation, because of an amendment that you just read, needs to be extended in 2026. Or we have to come back to city council for reauthorization for any projects that are, anything that isn't purchased or encumbered in 2026.
And come back when to the chair. When you mentioned time constraints, bro.
So, through the chairman of the councilman, the entrance that we have at the rear of City Hall meets a very specific requirement, but it's not accommodated. City Hall front steps, not accommodated. The ramp that we have on the east side of the building was built in 1984, not accommodating. So what we're trying to do here is make City Hall more accessible and equitable to everybody. Is there a time frame by which that has to happen? No, but we feel that it's important to start moving towards that project. Even if City Council doesn't approve it today, we're submitting, a request for legislation so that we can be back at City Council table to figure out how we can make City Hall more accessible. It's the right thing to do.
So we look at that. So and then we take a look at that also in the long run. Let's take a look at the parks and recreation centers as well for people with disabilities. It's a shame when someone is disabled and they pass by our parks, he or she might see their brother out there playing and they can't play because they have a disability. That's wrong. That's wrong. We need to open that up as well. We do this, and then we move forward for that as well. Any one of these parks, or the Birds Parks, anywhere the case may be, we gotta open that up for people with disabilities. And I want to see about this coffee shop as well. I want to take a look at the scope of that also. I'm not saying I'm for it, but I gotta see to understand what's going on. But that disability piece, that's first thing first for me. All right? Gotta take a look at it. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other questions regarding these two on this? Councilman Richard Stark.
Jim.
I got you.
Yes, Council President. Just from the standpoint of this ordinance, just for clarification, so when you talk about these capital improvement part of the budget or these plans, this is what is taking place with this $22 million, obviously, that's on our tablet. It is basically an initiative of how we're going to now, with the new program of carryover dollars that we utilize to be able to put dollars up for this project to the chair.
Through the chairman of the council, that is correct. Yes.
All right, so right now, so we're able to take money from our carryover that we had in 2025, and we're putting those dollars into all these capital improvements that we have on the list for 2026.
Through the chairman of the council, that is correct. That's the new way that we're proposing to fund capital projects. And then towards the end of the year, it would be bonded out to replenish the general fund carryover.
All right. And then one of the biggest things that I get oftentimes happen in my house that I live in is whenever there's a rain, my power go out. And I'm stuck in the garage. I'm stuck in the garage because I can't get out due to how my building is set up. And for us in 2021, well, coming into 2022, we had $511 million of ARPA funding. 2022, we had $48 million in carryover dollars. In 2023, we had $56 million and a half dollars in carryover dollars. 2024, we had $61 million of carryover dollars. In 99, and then in 2025, we had roughly $89 to $90 million of carryover dollars. And we never thought about Cleveland Public Power at 1 second to make sure the power was there. You know, one of the things that saddens me is when I was at Front End over the weekend, and when the power goes out for Cleveland Public Power, a lot of the food for their pantry expires. But we never put up dollars for Cleveland Public Power to make sure we got the infrastructure. So I do understand how my council colleague, Councilman Casey, feels. Every time it's come time to do stuff for the people, we never got no dollars. But every time it's what everyone else wants to do, we can never do nothing. So it's a shame to me to see all these carryover dollars each and every year. But we don't want to invest in the infrastructure of Cleveland Public Power. And now we're putting upgrades as far as ADA compliance for our building on hold. Is that correct to the chair? Are we really holding on bringing our building up to code, up to compliance with ADA standards?
What I am asking them to do is to come back to us with a more feasible plan. Many of the council members had concerns about trying to fund the full $7 billion bill back. We do appreciate the ADA compliance part, but there are other components that we've been trying to get to see if that is actually a priority of council. And right now, many of the council members have said that they did not feel comfortable, that they wanted to see a revised plan and still work with them on the revised plan.
And I thank you, Council President, for that clarification. But when we say many council members, nobody talked to me about nothing. So if I'm a council member, because nobody asked me, nobody gave my thoughts, so I guess my opinion doesn't matter. And that's what the confusion
we had these conversations multiple times in different chairs meetings, as well as there's been multiple conversations in the MOCAP meetings. So there's been multiple conversations around this. So if nobody reached out to you directly, I'm not sure why that might have happened, but I know that this has been a conversation that all the council has been having.
I understand. It just.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you guys want the $7 million bill back? If that's something, we could just come revisit this. But I'll be honest with you, if I'm wrong, y'all tell me, but several council members have shared with me that they had concerns about that expenditure.
I understand what the council members have, but I never get a chance to express my concerns or anything. And it's like, we get to the table and say, the council wants this. I can't tell if we don't even talk to each other to be able to give clear, concise to everyone. Just talking to the majority, I guess that's all it takes. Talking to the majority, and then that's the decision for the council. Better said, better suited. That's the reason why I don't be voting on these budgets, because we don't ever get nothing for the neighborhoods. We don't ever get nothing for what the residents want. It's just whatever the majority wants, and that's how things work. So I understand how things go, and I yield.
I got Councilman Christopher Harsh.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to add to this conversation two quick things. One, I think I heard the answer. We are not in violation of the American Disability Act as we currently are constructed. Correct, through the chair? The feds are coming from us. Through the chair of the council. That is correct. Okay. And then to the chair, I think it's really important what you pointed out, that the $7 million in this year's capital was phase one. There was another $7 million, I think, next year, and then another $7 million. And I think it adds up to almost $30 million for the total once you add them all together. So through the chair to the room, it's not a $7 million ask, it's a $30 million ask. We're asking for a pause to reconsider how this money is spent over the course of a few years, not just 1 year of a $7 million one and done. So I think it's important for us to look at that. And if we're not in violation of the ADA, then I don't think that we have a pressing need to do this right now. But I think there are other priorities that we can take care of in this budget. And I think we should move forward with the rest. We can take out that $7 million from City Hall and re-look at the proposal and how much it's going to cost over the course of the entire project. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Slide.
Thank you, and I guess maybe fall on the sword and say that the idea of amending to remove this for now originated with me. I think that there's been some characterization within even the media of it being a $7 million coffee shop. There's a lot of misunderstandings about what is being proposed. To Councilman Casey's question, what are the narrowly defined ADA improvements versus what is the creation of a new entrance lobby, a new security facility, and really a redesign of what is essentially the basement of City Hall. It's a very beautiful proposal that's been brought by the administration. I think the question to Councilman Sorry, your point to the chair, is I think there are questions about the needs in other city facilities, and while we understand that City Hall is important, most residents aren't engaging with the city by coming to City Hall. They're doing so by going to a park or a rec center, and to that end, if this is an important priority of the mayor's administration, perhaps it would be more beneficial and transparent to the public to have that come as an independent presentation so that we can have a presentation about it specifically, not as we are trying to couple it with improvements to install an EV charger in a city parking lot or to fix parks and do any of the other litany of recreation facility improvements that are covered across these two ordinances. Given the scale and the notoriety of this one, I had suggested that by removing this is not to put the project into the grave as much as to recognize that it might be worthy of its own conversation. And to the council president, if I'm interpreting the director correctly, it sounds like the administration is preparing that individual legislation to come forward for that specific conversation, which I think would be fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's pretty much all we're trying to do, is just to say we're going to put a pause so that we can actually understand it better and go from there. Councilman Conwell.
Thank you very much. You know what, and I'm going to echo this Councilman Starr, this piece here, Council President. Nobody ever talked to me about this stuff. I like looking at projects, I like reading it, I like trying to find out what's going on with it, and I need to know. No one never, and I was gone for my anniversary, but I still someone could have included me into it, you know, because it means a lot. Now, listening, and I respect what Councilman Hart said, that we're not out of compliance. However, we are leaders, and we want to lead the charge with ADA. We want to make sure that it's disability, so when people look around as leaders. Leaders must be able to see around corners. Leaders must be able to see around corners, so we set this up with ADA, and this is a pressing need also. It's a pressing need for me. As a matter of fact, I've been trying to push this for years. Dealing with people with disabilities. I just talked about creating with Councilman Brian Casey a committee for people with disabilities. This means a lot to us and certain people that's on council. So I would like to see this go of the coffee shop. I want to see what's going on. And I'm not even saying, is it fair to say coffee shop? Because in the scope, it might be other things in there as well. So I want to see it. And that's where I'm at. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Pulisic.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I understand there was a great deal of debate, discussion on these two pieces of legislation, which are very important. I mean, there's no doubt that we have many challenges that are before us as it pertains to Main City. Maintain DeRosa, who's a very competent director, his staff, which are very competent as well. I do support, though, the withholding of the money as it pertains to the City Hall renovation until there's further discussion and explanation on them. I'd like to also further note through the chair to the director, since 2020, how much we have spent on City Hall in general as it pertains to renovation or improvements. I ask that in all due respect because every time I walk into my office and I look at the bungee cord holding my door together, I keep asking myself, we pour a lot of resources, we've been pouring a lot of money into City Hall, but we still have ongoing issues. We know we have to button up the exterior of the building, that's a given, because of its age. This is a historic landmark, and we've got to maintain the people's house. But I think a lot of us have been questioning some of the, what I want to call the frills and some of the things that are being advocated and implemented at City Hall as it pertains to, are they really important for the city in light of all the challenges that we have on our rec centers, our city parks and playgrounds, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I'm respectfully asked to the chair, to the director, to the administration, since 2020, how much actual capital dollars have we poured into Cleveland City Hall, right here, 601 Lakeside Avenue. The other thing I wanted to address is ordinance number 234 with regard to the line item, Mr. Chairman, my colleagues, for $1.184 million for the Highland Golf Course. I have repeatedly said at this table that continuing to subsidize and pour money into Highland Golf Course is a tremendous mistake, and that this council and this administration is doing. The proof is in the pudding. If you read the expose that was in Cleveland.com about the golf course, the operation spoke for itself. We should not be in the golf course business. Again, we keep hearing from the administration concerns about the $1 million less than $1 million that we subsidize Burke Airport with, which again, we don't subsidize from the general fund, comes out of the port control through the, in connection to its linkage to Hopkins International Airport. But here again is another $2 million. The general operating and in the general budget, and now in restricted funds here, $2 million for the golf course. And yet we can't get parks fixed. We can't get recreation centers fixed. This, I want to say this again, this continues to be a major mistake on behalf of the administration and on behalf of council for supporting it. So, Mr. Chairman, I will move that we strike in 234. I'll make a motion that we strike the $1.184 million from this line item, from this piece of legislation, and direct it to Cleveland Public Power for emergency repairs to the grid and system. I make that
Councilman,
motion.
you got a motion on the floor?
Second.
And Councilman Starr has seconded. Is there discussion on that? I'll start just by saying, once again, the administration is supposed to be coming to us with a comprehensive plan around what are the needs, not of the grid, but of the CPP infrastructure. I would strongly request and suggest that we actually see what that plan looks like before we move to do that. I will tell you that many of the council members on the southeast side, just like we support the West Side Market, just like we support other amenities in the city of Cleveland, this is something that is a very important staple to a lot of people on the southeast part of town. Now, I will tell you this, I'm open if Metro Parks or somebody else might want to come in and do this, but I will tell you that revenue right now and the new things that they, the new improvements that they made to it is starting to generate revenue, which is why we absolutely were trying to get into the golf courses too, so that they can operate it without us having to subsidize it. So I would strongly urge my colleagues to still allow that $1.4 million investment, because once again, that golf course is turning around and it is beginning to be a profit maker. And I know that many of my colleagues on the southeast side feel the same way. Director and Mr. DeRosa.
Through the chair to the committee, so this raises some legal concerns because putting money into CPP using potentially bond money has not been vetted by bond counsel and the specific uses the projects in the CIP has. So there are questions about whether this would even be legal should you want to pass it.
Mr. Gentile.
Through the chair, the committee members, to add to the director's statement, they are an enterprise fund. They issue revenue bonds. And right now, if you open a door funding the general obligation debt or the general fund, I mean, that could open a door that doesn't end. So I think there's got to be more discussion funding CPP with non-revenue bonds issued by CPP. I mean, not saying that we don't want to do it as, you know, a city, but I think there needs to be a real in-depth discussion because it can open a door that may never close. And if you have to do lots and lots of repairs there, I mean, it could really impact the general fund and city services. I would really caution right now jumping to add to CPP from this until there's a broader discussion across the board with council and the administration and law and everyone that needs to vet this.
Mr. Chairman, to both the finance director and to Mr. Gentile, I'm very much aware that an enterprise fund cannot support the general fund. I'm very much aware of that. But you are aware as well that the general fund, we can support an enterprise fund. You know that. We've done that in the past.
Correct.
Okay. So you've heard the concerns expressed at the table. This weekend I had a power outage in my ward, CPP power outage again. My colleagues and Councilman Casey, to his defense, he's repeatedly said to the administration, something has to give with regard to the grid. The reliability of the system. It's been stated during the budget hearings for 2 years in a row. It's been stated at the Utilities Committee. Again, so, you know, I don't see what the issue is here. It would go to CPP for improvements.
So through the chair to the councilman.
We own it. Last time I looked, we owned CPP.
So through the chair to the councilman, you're not just talking about general fund dollars, you're talking about dollars that we're going to go out and bond out for.
I understand that.
Which all of these projects need to be vetted by bond counsel and by our legal team to make sure that we can actually go out and borrow for those specific projects. Otherwise, we could be in danger of violating,
Well, you have enough talented people around you that if once we pass this amendment, when we pass the legislation, if there's something that it could come back that we could amend, we could always amend like we do all the time around the state, amend legislation. Okay?
Councilperson, yes, we could supplement enterprise funds. There's nothing against that. And I agree with just about everything you said. I'm just asking that we have a global conversation about the legalities before we add money.
Okay, I'm not adding, I'm making an amendment to remove one line item and to include another. And I made a motion, and it was seconded.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
there's been a minute, move the second, Mr.
Mr. Chair and Councilman, so the line that you're striking is related to recreation bonds. Cleveland Public Power would not fall under that category, even if we chose to fund it. I would like to emphasize that the City Council put a spend restriction on all of this legislation as well. So to add money for CPP in an appropriate piece of legislation would also have that requirement, and we have no idea how they would spend $1 million at this point, so we would need a plan from CPP on how they would want to spend it. Further, I'd like to say that the issue with funding CPP, in my opinion, from the general fund is also one of equity, because you would have non-ratepayers supporting a CPP system without a full plan coming before the council and administration for review.
Through the chair to the councilman, I would also want CPP to be involved in these talks to make sure that they can use those dollars as well before we just, get the money.
Councilman, I would just chime in, and let me say this. I understand everybody's sense of urgency on CPP, and I too have been working with Councilman Casey to try to get a comprehensive plan. I really would urge us, before we move to do anything with CPP, to really bring them into Councilman Casey's committee and have a thorough conversation about this, because it's my understanding that a small sum will not even touch the surface of some of the challenges that we have with that. So that's why I want to really be, cognizant of how we look at with that.
Mr. Chairman, may we speak to the pump house improvements?
at the golf course?
Please, thank you.
Yeah, to the committee members, through the council president. This is just to say that there is a fledgling foundation that's now running the golf course, and they're now going to be in their third year of operation this year. The improvements specifically in this year's budget are to redo an antiquated pump house and pump system that feeds the irrigation system for the entire 36-hole golf course. So they've been cobbling it together for years and years, and now we need to really address the pump house issue and the infrastructure within it. So it is an infrastructure responsibility of the city, not the foundation, to do that work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would only add this. There's a motion, something called a roll on. We've been subsidizing that golf course as long as I've been here. I want to state that for the record. We have subsidized that golf course as long as I've been here. And what do our citizens and what do our folks want? They want their parks and playgrounds, their rec centers maintained. So I understand the position of the administration. Metro Parks should have the golf course. We should have gave it to Metro Parks a long time ago. They don't subsidize any of their golf courses. They've notified me. They don't subsidize not a one of their golf courses. They're all profitable because the way they're run. And the way we have run golf courses, like we've run a lot of stuff, we run them into the ground and we do not operate them efficiently or effectively. And we have paid a severe price for it. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm quoting Frank Jackson, which is a scary thought here. The matter is, we should not be in a golf course business. We should be in a recreation business for our children and our families and our elderly. I'll leave it at that point. I made a motion, it's been seconded, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so there's been discussion, Councilman Harsh.
Yeah, through the chair, I just want to make sure I understand. Through the chair, have we ever funded enterprise? Have we ever directed enterprise? Have we ever directed funds to an enterprise using capital improvement project bond? Or do we always do separate bonds for utility investment? Have we ever used CIP to direct money to CPP?
Mr. Gentile.
Through the chair of the council person, I don't believe so. I mean, we do it for the small ones, but you have a utility that's competing against a for-profit entity. So, I mean, there's a lot of complexities with CPP because they are competing in the open market against a different utility provider. That's why I just wanted to make sure that we properly vet this entire thing before we do this. I'm not saying that we can't do it once we vet it properly. I'm just saying I'm concerned about just plugging that in right now.
Okay, but through the chair also, because we're doing a different bond spending strategy this year, we're spending general fund up front and then bonding later on to reimburse ourselves. So through the chair, would the councilman's proposal be more legally palatable if it was just to remove the 1.184 period, then that money just stays in the general fund? If they want to draft up a different piece of legislation later to direct it towards CPP, they can do that.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, I think that makes sense, because also there were questions about if you're adding money to CPP, whether that's even relevant to the type of,
Okay,
of the
so
authorization.
so Mr. Chair, here's my follow-up to that. I also am not a big fan of the Highland Golf Course. I think it's funny that it's considered citywide and the ward is not even in the city. But I do understand that it's a big holistic issue. I don't think we should be addressing it in a bond fund issue on a Monday afternoon when we were not expecting to have a discussion about the fate of Highland Golf Course today. I think the administration and the council should come up with a holistic plan for Highland Golf Course. I don't think now is the appropriate time to decide whether or not we're going to nickel and dime on. Mr. Chair, I would vote no on the proposed amendment.
Thank you. I'm going to actually call the roll if we could, because we have discussion on it. Yes, Councilman Sargent.
Yes, I'll just put out for record, we're talking about making this amendment and using some of these bond dollars or some of these dollars to support the efforts of people of power. But if you look at the record, in the past, we've done this for the West Side Market. So now we're acting like we can't do this because we're not allowed, but we've done it for the West Side Market over in time. But it's so about time getting into confusion.
Did you guys want to explain that to the council?
Right.
On that, I'll put you down, Councilman Bishop.
To the chair, Councilman Wilson, I think the difference here is CPPs funded through revenue bonds. So they generate revenue, they issue revenue bonds, so they generate revenue. Doesn't have the full faith and credit of the city of Cleveland. It's only that enterprise. Whereas the West Side Market has gotten geo bonds, we've never had revenue bonds. And if you start to fund an entity that issues revenue bonds, there can be questions in the future. Like it may start to commit you permanently. And I'm not saying we don't want to be committed permanently. I just think we need a further discussion to talk about CPP and how to fix it. But they issue revenue bonds. That's the major difference between CPP, water, airports, and I mean all the utilities and airports issue revenue bonds. Whereas like the smaller enterprise funds like West Side Market or the golf course have gotten geo debt, and cemeteries have gotten geo debt.
Okay, it just always, I really feel like we as a council got to really figure out what we want to do. Because I trust obviously Mr. Gentile and everything, but every time it comes to these dollars and these taxpayer dollars and we want to do something, it's so much restrictions. And then we always get up here and we always talk about what the council priority is, and it clearly continues to show that we don't got no priorities. There's a few of us want to do stuff for the neighborhoods, the residents, and a few of us just want to sip the water of administration, and I'm just tired of sipping it. But you call it over, Mr. President.
All right, Councilman Bishop.
Mr. President, are we,
The lawyers.
Are we talking about the amendment that's been offered on the table, or are we just having a discussion?
We're voting on we're having a discussion on the amendment that Councilman Polinsky has offered regarding the pump station and the sprinkler systems for the golf course.
All right, Mr. President, for the lack of a better term, or lack of better words, this is becoming a hot mess. This whole process is becoming a hot mess. Listen, we are chopping up our CIP plans. We don't administer. We don't hire. We don't fire. This body doesn't manage. We're going to come up with 14 different plans for the CIP. We're going to come up with all of these different plans to manage our city and our city assets. It's not going to work. We need to stick to our process. We need to let our professionals be professionals and give us advice on what we should do, and we should analyze it. We want to be informed. This body wants to be informed. This body wants to be enlightened. We want to understand what's going on, but we cannot manage this process. I mean, if we have all of the managers on this side of the table and all the managers on that side of the table, who's going to do the work? We have to, like Polinsky has eloquently said over and over again, that we don't hire, we don't fire, we don't manage, and now are we trying to manipulate this whole process? Mr. President, count me as a no vote. Thank you.
All right, we're going to call the roll on this.
Through the chair.
Yes.
And just a point of clarification. The 1.8 million line item is part of this ordinance, and file number C. And so we can't just strike out 1.8 million. We have to do that by substituting a new file D. That's the mechanics of how this would work. The ordinance does not list out line items. It's by virtue of the file. So the amendment would be to substitute a new file. Just that's.
Is Mr. Chairman, it's 1.18 million, not 1.8 million. 1.18.
All right, 1.18 million. So then the councilman has an amendment on the floor that has been seconded, and we're in discussion. Are you saying that we have to change the amendment, or do we have to vote to let that amendment go?
The only way you can strike out the 1.18 million is by putting in a new file.
Okay, so councilman, the only way we can do that is if they pull it out a new file. And I'm just trying.
And I would move that we do that.
So Councilman has moved, and is there a second to pull out that file and add a new file?
Are we amending the amendment at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
And Councilman Starr has seconded. Okay, we've had discussion over this, so the prerogative of the chair, we're gonna do a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Griffin,
No.
Santana,
No.
Bishop,
No.
Gamwell,
No.
Harsh,
No.
Casey, Valencia,
Yes.
Sly,
No.
Star.
Yes.
6 no, 2 yes.
Okay, therefore, the amendment does not carry. We're going back to the original legislation. Seeing no other questions, we've had discussion, and we've also talked about ordinance number 232-2026 as amended, and ordinance number 234-2026 as amended. Seeing no other discussion, both of those as amended stand approved. And we will be talking with you guys about following up on what we want to do as far as the garden level. I'm going to turn it over for the last few pieces to Chairman Santana. I have to go take care of a family issue.
We have one more.
Okay.
309.
Oh, you have one more?
One more.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So next up, we have ordinance number 309-2026 by Councilmember Bishop, Santana, Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance determining the method of making the public improvement of repairing, constructing, or installing roadways, bus paths, sidewalks, driveway aprons, curbs, bridge streets, ADA compliant curb ramps, minor bridge repairs, and asphalt resurfacing and asphalt crack sealing, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into one or more public improvement requirements, contracts for making of the improvement, authorizing Director to apply for and accept any gifts or grants, and authorizing any agreements for a period not to exceed 2 years. Director.
Madam Chairperson, so this is our 2-year requirements contract for roadway projects. Mr. Srutowski, to my right, is the Manager of Engineering and Construction. He's going to say a few words about this ordinance.
Thank you, Director. To the Chair and the Council members, as the Director mentioned, this is our 2-year requirements contract. These are the contracts that we utilize to do asphalt, concrete, bus pads, ADA ramps, street sidewalk. It's a toolbox, and within that toolbox, there's a number of line items that we'll put together a task order to get something done. We often do work that the council member might like to have done. We're going to pass through these contracts. There'll be 3 of these, as I mentioned, one's for the asphalt and concrete, one's for bridge repairs, and one's for the TDS requirements contract.
Got it. Any questions? Do you want to add anything to that?
Just Madam Chairwoman, this, our current contract expires in the fall, so we're getting legislative authority now so that we can bid it out in plenty of time so that it's in place before the current contract expires.
Got it. Councilman Polenzek?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, to the Director. Who, and Mr. Sotowski, who had the contract last year for the 50/50 sidewalk program?
To the Chair of the Councilman, I believe that was Bergen. I'll go back and double check. That's my recollection.
So they had it for the entire city?
Oh, the small contract. I'm sorry. I was thinking TDS. I'm sorry.
50/50?
50/50 is where small contractors last year, they're under $50,000 contracts. Carnival was one, Bishop Brothers was another, and I can't recall which the third was at this time.
Okay, so they were all under 50?
Yes,
How
so
could that be?
We're working to give smaller businesses the opportunity to come to the city and start acclimating themselves to our business acumen so that they can be part of it.
Which is commendable. But, so if you could provide to us a list of those contractors who worked on the 50/50 program last year and a dollar amount associated with that, and were they given regions or areas of the city?
When we bid the contract, I'm sorry, to the Chair of the Councilman, yes, when we bid the projects, I think we did 7 contracts, 7 at 50,000 each, 350,000. We assigned different ward areas that they would then be focused in. It didn't necessarily mean that they would always be in that one.
Yes.
Money in one, have to go to get someone else from another, we did that.
Okay, so I'd like to, again, Madam Chairperson, I'd like to get the list of the contractors, the dollar amount they were paid, and then the areas that they worked, so I could get a better understanding how effective the program was or not. And then on that point, are you reviewing to the director how effective it was and the quality of work?
Mr. Chairman, yes, so this was the second year that we tried the small contracts. The first year, if council recalls, it was not successful because we really didn't focus enough on what we require of them before we awarded the contracts. We worked through our Department of OEO and they suggested firms and we looked at who was registered. The second year, we were better with our requirements. And so most of them did well, but some did not. This year, we're changing our process for the 50/50 so that we're gonna put out, it out to bid, and there will be some larger ones, because the goal is to have a pipeline to grow.
Yes.
And then there'll be some that will still be at the $50,000 range. The goal is that, you can hire staff, you can buy equipment, and move your way up. So we think we're getting better each year, but I will acknowledge that it has been trying to the residents who did not get a good contractor, and it took a lot of time with our staff to manage those small contracts.
And I appreciate those comments because I have serious concerns about some of the work that was done. So give me that information and then I'll talk into you about some of the locations I have concerns about. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues? So this was heard in Municipal Services. I know Councilman Bishop is not here, but based on the signatures, seems like it passes. So hearing no other questions, ordinance number 309-2026 has been approved. Please sign on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I guess we'll have to reschedule our.
Yeah, we will. No problem.
Finance Director. Would you be able to take it? Okay. Do you want to take this real quick? Okay, good. Thank you. Are you gonna need me?
You didn't sign this year.
Clerk, if council steps out, we still have the quorum, correct?
Okay.
There we go. We'll make it quick. All right. Ordinance, we have two more. Ordinance 131-2026 by Councilman Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing declarations of official intent under U.S. Treasury regulations with respect to reimbursements from note and bond proceeds of temporary advances made for payments prior to issuance and related matters. Sort of speaks for itself, huh? Go ahead.
So, through the chair of the committee, so this is legislation to allow the Director of Finance, namely me, to sign off on IRS forms and basically inform the IRS that we are going to a system of spending from the general fund and then reimbursing with tax-exempt debt. This is a requirement that we inform the IRS within 60 days of any expenditure that we're doing this. Essentially, it's a form that was put in with the legislation that I would fill out for every single project as we near, the plan would be for me to fill this out as we near contract execution and submit this to the IRS with a copy going to council so that you all would have the transparency to see what we're actually signing off on and the contracts that we're executing. So bond counsel is also here should there be any questions, but essentially this is just for authorization for me to sign these forms and submit them.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Munson.
Is this something new, Director?
So through the chair to the council, yes, because this is a new system we're going to. Usually we have a bond ordinance already passed, which gives us the authorization to go out and borrow for those projects. Since we don't have that and we're going to do the bond legislation at the end of the year, the IRS requires these forms.
Because that's what I'm saying, because I don't ever recall us doing that in the past.
Thank you. Through the chair to the councilman, I can explain that. The IRS requires these forms to be filled out and attached to your tax documents when you do a bond issue in order to use those bond proceeds to reimburse funds that have fronted money for a capital project.
Okay.
In the past, because you've always passed your bond ordinances
Right.
prior to doing your projects and signing your contracts, you typically didn't make any expenditures until after the bond ordinances were passed. That bond ordinance actually satisfied the IRS's requirements for a declaration, so you didn't need a subsequent type of form.
So then if the funds are not properly spent, then the director wears the orange jumpsuit and the rubber shoes, right? Nobody in council, that's why I want to make sure of that, okay? That's right, okay. Gentile shirt's not going to wear that. He's already passing the buck over to the director. Okay, thank you.
Not my seat.
Yeah, right.
Are there any other questions on ordinance 131, 26? Councilman Harsh. Councilman Harsh with an amendment.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend ordinance 131-2026, insert a new section 3. Copy of each notice of declaration of intent filed with compliance of the IRS, the clerk of council, and finance and municipal services and properties chair. Renumber section 3 to section 4.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I was here second, but I was talking to city business.
I didn't.
What you just said. I was here second.
We didn't add it, they just
The amendment is to insert a new section 3, which says, a copy of each notice of declaration of intent filed with compliance of the IRS, the clerk of council, and finance and municipal services and properties chair. And then renumber section 3 and 4. So essentially, notify clerk and chair Bishop when the intent is filed, so that we are aware of it. It's basically one of those, keep us in the loop.
Second. Hearing a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah.
Okay. Please mark one opposition. Councilman Starr. Are there any further questions on ordinance 131, 2026? Hearing none, we'll move to the floor this evening. Please sign on. Our final piece of legislation is ordinance 516-2026, authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into one or more contracts with one or more insurance carriers to procure various types of comprehensive insurance coverage needed to maintain continuous coverage for municipal operations, including policy renewals, adjustments, and other related services for a period of 3 years with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Finance. And before I turn it over to the councilman, I believe Councilman Harsh is coming forward with amendments to this one as well.
The amendments the same. They're the same. All right, so there's two amendments. In section 2, at the end, insert, quote, Director of Finance or his designee as appropriate shall provide notice to the council whenever any such purchase is made under this section, which notice shall include the details of any such cooperative purchases. Okay. Second Amendment, strike section 3 in its entirety and insert a new section 3 to read as follows. That the total aggregate costs per year of any and all contracts authorized by this ordinance, whether considered individually or collectively, shall not exceed $1,200,000 annually and will be paid from fund number 01-1513-6350 and any other funds approved by the Director of Finance, provided, however, the written notice of such other funds shall be provided to the Clerk of Council. RQF 1513 RL 2026-20.
Thank you. There's an amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Is there any discussion on the amendment? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Yes.
Clerk. All right. So discussion on ordinance 516-2026 as amended. To the Chief of Finance, I've always been told that the city is self-insured. It's been a big talking point. Are we moving away from that system?
So, through the chair to the committee, just generally overall, what this legislation would do is basically centralize how we buy insurance. Council passed legislation, I believe it was late last year, to allow us to buy a broker to go out and test the marketplace. And I just want to be clear, this is insurance on things like infrastructure around the city, things like cyber security, against fraud and criminal activity. It does not include health insurance. So I just want to make that very clear. And essentially what this would do is centralize our insurance efforts. So right now, if we need something insured that's related to parks, they go out and look for a policy. And it's kind of all over the place with the division. So we're centralizing this within the risk division, and we have Commissioner Romero from the risk division here. We also added in, through the amendment, added in a not to exceed of $1.2 million, and basically allows the Director of Finance to enter into these insurance contracts on behalf of the city.
Would you like to add this right now?
So, to the chair, so this is a process that we've been working on for quite some time. We started with the workers' comp insurance that we did, and pretty much we're the preeminent workers' comp municipality in the state of Ohio. Then we segued, and I know that council was involved, when we went out and we purchased and are installing a citywide software program for risk management that the city has never had. So that's part of that centralization. Now we're knowing exactly where our liabilities and our assets lie. And when you mentioned a point about the self-insurance, we do certain levels. So we're all over the place. We're insured in one area, then other areas where we transfer risk. So because the true definition in the industry of self-insurance is you have to have a pool of money to draw from that. And so we accept certain limits of risk and liability. What this is going to help us do is make sure, like, for example, Huntington Bank Field, that we're responsible for anywhere from 3 to 5 years. We're going to be able to make sure that they continue as an asset of ours. We're still going to be able to make sure that it's insured. And that's usually like our 6.25 for the last 3 years. It's been in that neighborhood. So that and other areas that we're getting, there's things like drone liability. There's so many different things in the market that are available that we have to look at and make sure we're protected, and we're not going to have a nuclear option of one department, one section of the city being at risk.
Understood. Okay, are there any other questions on ordinance 51626? Hearing none, ordinance 51626 as amended is approved. It will move to the floor tonight. That will conclude today's Finance, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.